"We've decided you're not family anymore," my mom told my daughter after she had flown 5 hours just to be there for their wedding anniversary. They wouldn't even let her step inside. I didn't scream. I chose to act instead. 30 minutes later, they were shouting in confusion and fear. Let's rewind a bit, not too far back, just to the moment I stood beneath a decorative arch made of fake hydrangeas, scanning the driveway for the sixth time in 10 minutes, trying my best to seem calm. My husband was juggling 2 half-full paper cups of lukewarm punch while whispering a mini argument with our youngest about whether she could take her shoes off. My son, meanwhile, leaned against a folding chair in that preteen way that said, "I'm not really with these people." And me? I was checking the time again. "She's cutting it close," I murmured. "Maybe the flight got held up," Graham offered, sipping what might have been the most uncelebratory drink imaginable. I nodded, but my stomach had already begun its signature twist, that strange sensation of feeling light and heavy at the same time. Evelyn had been thrilled. She picked out her dress 3 weeks earlier and even got it dry cleaned, which, for a college student, is the equivalent of a love letter. She'd packed a small gift bag in her carry-on, a handmade photo frame she'd custom-etched herself. She was scheduled to land just before noon. The ceremony started at 2 o'clock. She promised she'd Uber straight from the airport. "I'll be there, Mom," she said. "It's their big day." "Yeah, their big day." By 2:11, sweat was beginning to soak through the sides of my sleeveless dress as I checked my phone every 20 seconds. No messages, no calls, no Evelyn. I found my mother near the back patio, repositioning candles like she was choreographing a scene for a drama instead of hosting a vow renewal. Her hair was pinned up in that retro style that always made me think of old soap operas. My dad stood beside her, gripping a clipboard like someone might try to sneak off with the vows and rewrite them. "Hey," I said, forcing a cheerful tone. "I know it's getting late, but can we wait just a few more minutes? Evelyn hasn't arrived yet. She's probably right around the corner." My mom turned to me, composed as a librarian. "Oh, she was already here," she said. I blinked. "What?" "She came a little early," my mom replied, brushing away a speck of nothing from the tablecloth. "A bit before noon, I think." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because that's what you do when everything starts spinning. "Then where is she? Is she inside?" My dad joined in, like he'd been rehearsing this line. "We told her it wasn't the right day for her to be here." The words didn't register. "I'm sorry, what?" "She's not really part of the family," my mom said, smoothing the tablecloth again, as if neat fabric would justify it. "Not in the same way." "Not in the same way?" I repeated, staring at her, waiting for the joke, the wink, the inevitable. "Relax, I'm kidding." That part never came. "What the hell are you talking about?" My voice was thin, shaky. "She understood," my dad said, crossing his arms like that made it final. "She didn't argue. She was very respectful." Of course she was. Evelyn had always been too respectful, too composed, too careful not to make anyone else uncomfortable, even when she was the one being shattered. I couldn't feel my legs anymore. "You turned her away?" I said, barely able to get the words out. "She flew 5 hours, paid for the ticket on her own, skipped her roommate's birthday just to be here, and you—" "We didn't mean anything hurtful by it," my mom interrupted. "We just wanted to keep things simple, intimate." There were 87 people on the RSVP list, but sure intimate, Graham came up behind me, sensing something was off. I turned to him, then to my kids, then back to my parents. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, but something snapped inside me, like the thinnest wire finally giving up. "We're leaving," I said. "What?" My mom's eyes widened. "Mira, don't be dramatic." I didn't answer. I just bent down and told the kids to grab their things. Graham caught on immediately. He dumped the punch, took the bags and nodded. We walked out in silence. I didn't look back. Outside, the air felt like a punishment. Hot, sticky, unforgiving. My hands shook as I tried Evelyn again. Straight to voicemail. I tried texting nothing. Then I just stood by the car, gripping the phone. Like it might give me a reason, Graham opened the passenger door for the kids, then came to stand beside me. "She'll call." He said he didn't need to because 5 minutes later I got a message, just a simple, "Are you free now?" I called her back immediately. She answered after 2 rings. "Hey," I said, my voice caught in my throat. "Where are you?" "I'm fine," she said, but her voice wasn't. It was small, afraid I didn't want to ruin anything. You didn't ruin anything, I said. They did. She said, they've decided I'm not part of the family anymore. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was charged. I didn't want to tell you, she continued. Not during the event. I thought you should enjoy it. I swallowed hard. My grip on the phone tightened. Where are you? I asked. Some cafe down the road, she said. I didn't really know where else to go. We're coming, I told her. Graham was already backing the car out. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. But I took out my phone, scrolled to a folder, placed a call, and 30 minutes later, my parents were shouting in fear. I used to believe they were just imperfect, like most parents. Not cruel, just a bit blunt, a little old-fashioned. The kind of people who might forget your birthday and then hand you a $20 bill saying, here, now you can get what you really want. But cruelty? I didn't think that was in them. At least not until I heard my daughter repeat the same line that had been thrown at me half a lifetime ago. They said I'm not really family. And right then, it all clicked into place. I was the middle child growing up. You know the type. Old enough to be blamed, not old enough to be taken seriously. Too young for real responsibility, too old to be the adorable one. My older brother Colin, the overachiever. My younger sister Ruth, the baby. And me, I was the buffer, the placeholder, the one who filled in the space in family photos without adding much meaning to them. At first, the signs were subtle, tiny things. On birthdays, Ruth would receive handmade glittery cards. Colin, a cake specially designed with his favorite football team's logo. Me? I once got a plain sheet cake from the grocery store with the wrong name on it. And when I pointed it out, Omare, it's just cake. Don't be difficult. That line would become a refrain. But it was never just about the cake. It was never just anything. I must have been around 12 or 13 when I first heard them say it. I had made a new friend, Maya. She was bold, wore black nail polish, talked about becoming a tattoo artist. My parents couldn't stand her, or her parents. We don't know what kind of people they are, my mom had muttered, like they were stockpiling weapons, not raising a teenager who liked eyeliner. Still, I kept seeing Maya. Then one Saturday, I woke up to an empty house. I figured they'd gone to pick up groceries. Spoiler, they hadn't. They'd gone to the amusement park, the one we'd been planning to visit for weeks. And I wasn't invited. Later, through tears, after Ruth let it slip by accident, I asked my mom why. She laughed and said, we just didn't feel like you were really part of the family that day. And everyone chuckled, even Ruth, even Colin. Because apparently it was just a joke. That evening, I sat at the dinner table with puffy eyes and a plate of leftover hot dogs. I asked her if she meant what she said. Oh, Moira, of course not, she replied. But honestly, if you're going to make this big a deal over a harmless joke, maybe you need to think about your behavior. She told me I had embarrassed myself, that I should reflect on how I made them feel. So I apologized, and for years, I truly believed I had overreacted, that maybe I had earned it. Years later, I met my first husband when I was 22. His name was Aaron. He grew up in the foster system, bounced around a lot. But he was steady kind, the kind of man who fixed your broken chair before you even asked, and knew how to cook actual food that didn't come out of a box. My parents hated him. Where's his family? My dad had asked over dinner the first time we brought Aaron home. He doesn't have any, I said. My mom tilted her head like a curious bird. That's so sad. Sad to them meant suspicious. They never said it outright, but it was clear they didn't think he belonged. He wasn't our kind. He was soft-spoken, worked with his hands, and didn't have a degree from a shiny school. What he did have was heart, which apparently wasn't enough when we got married. My mom said, just promise me one thing. You won't expect us to pretend this is a good idea. I said nothing, mostly because I had no idea how to answer that without flipping a table. They did come to the wedding, but they brought energy like they were attending a funeral when Evelyn was born. Everything softened for me anyway, for them. Not so much. He looked like Aaron, big brown eyes, expressive. Eyebrows, quiet, curiosity. She didn't cry much, as a baby didn't demand anything. Just watched thoughtful from day one. My parents kept her at arm's length. They didn't say it. They didn't have to. One Christmas, they brought all the grandkids personalized ornaments. Evelyn's was generic, store-bought with G in block letters. Not her name, just Joy. My mom actually said, well, we weren't sure what she was into. She was 4. What she was into was stickers and grilled cheese, but okay. I tried talking to them about it once. My mom told me not to read into everything my dad said. I was always trying to find fault. Eventually, I stopped asking, years later. Aaron and I divorced. It wasn't dramatic. We just changed. He moved to a different city. Still visits Evelyn regularly. We co-parent. Well, better than some couples I know who are still married. My parents, you'd think they'd won a war. Well, my mom had said, sipping her tea. I suppose we all make mistakes, but you've really grown from it. Then I met Graham, my now husband, steady, funny, middle class, from the right kind of town, went to college, wears polos unironically. My parents loved him on sight. We're so proud of you, my dad had said at dinner one night. You really turned your life around. I almost spit out my drink. Turned my life around like Evelyn was part of a detour. I wasn't supposed to take it. Became clear with time Evelyn's half-siblings got real attention, real gifts, real warmth. She got polite smiles and last-minute invites. Sometimes I caught her noticing, but she never said anything. She just folded her feelings neatly and put them on a shelf somewhere. Ruth, my sister, started to change once she had kids of her own. She started noticing things the way our parents always leaned on me, always dismissed me. She apologized quietly. She started calling me, more inviting me to things, offering babysitting. Help without waiting for me to ask. It wasn't fair, she said. Once the way they treated you growing up, I see it now. We didn't talk about it constantly, but I knew she saw it. That meant something. Colin, on the other hand, still. The golden boy, he worked in finance, married someone who referred to herself as classy in her wedding vows and sided with our parents on everything. They're old, he said once. Just let them be who they are, and maybe next time I'll let a raccoon live in my car because it's cold out. When my parents announced they were renewing their vows for their anniversary, all 3 siblings were asked to contribute. Equally, I paid my share, sent in photos for the slideshow. Help with the playlist. Evelyn was included in the group email. She was excited. I let myself believe it might be different this time. They were older now, maybe softer, maybe ready to see the difference between parenting and punishment. Maybe they treat all the grandkids the same, maybe. And then they turned her away when I called Ruth from the car. She sounded winded. Wait, she was there. They told me she couldn't make it. They lied, I said. Ruth was quiet for a second, then Moira. That's disgusting. They told her she wasn't family. She said it to me, word for word. Ruth exhaled slowly. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to, I said. I just needed you to know. She didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was low. Let me talk to James. We'll figure something out. I hung up and stared out the windshield, because that's when it hit me. This wasn't a new betrayal, it was a rerun, and this time I wasn't the one apologizing. I didn't speak. The entire car ride. Neither did Graham. The kid sat quietly in the back seat watching something on a tablet with the volume too low to hear. It was eerie, the silence like the calm. After a building collapses, you're not sure what just happened, but you know. Nothing looks the same. I had walked out of my parents' wedding anniversary correction. We had as a family in front of 80 people, give or take a few old coworkers and ex-neighbors. We stood up, collected our things, and left without looking back. I kept asking myself the same question. What have I done? And the answer kept changing. At first, you abandoned your parents' big day, then, no, you made a point, then again. What kind of daughter does that? And finally, one who has a daughter of her own. When we got to the cafe, Evelyn was sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a mug of something that had probably gone cold. She looked up, blinked, and stood slowly like she wasn't sure we were real. Her eyes were red but dry. Hi, she said, like she hadn't just been shut out of her grandparents' lives. I hugged her before I could stop myself. Not the polite kind either. I crushed her, and she didn't pull away. We ordered fries, a few drinks, nobody ate. I don't know how long we sat like that before my phone buzzed. I didn't even check the screen. I just knew. Who is it? Graham asked gently. My brother. I said, here we go. I picked up. What the hell? Moira, hi. Colin, you just left at Mom and Dad's anniversary. Are you completely out of your mind? Evelyn was turned away at the door. She's being dramatic. You know how she is. No, Colin. I know how they are. He scoffed so loud. I had to pull the phone away from my ear. This is insane. You are blowing up decades of family tradition over some misunderstanding she flew. 5 hours. They told her she wasn't family, Colin kept going. Do you have any idea what you've done to Mom, to Dad? They're devastated. They were in tears. Good, that stunned him into silence. Then you've lost your mind. You're trying to ruin. This family, Colin, I said calmly. If one person ruins your big day, it wasn't a big day. It was a performance. I hung up. Mid-rant. My hand was shaking. Evelyn reached over and placed her fingers gently on mine. Just a light tap. I looked at her. She didn't say anything buzz this time. It was Mom. Graham reached for the phone. Don't, he said softly. I have to, I answered. I don't know what you think you're doing, Mom hissed. But you are humiliating us in front of everyone we know. Maybe you should have thought of that before slamming the door in your granddaughter's face. We didn't slam the door. Don't be so dramatic, right? I said. You just told her she wasn't family and watched her walk away. There was a pause. Then the guilt trip began. You've made your point now. Come back. No, Maura. Don't do this. It's your parents' anniversary. People are asking questions. I'm sure they are. Her voice sharpened. You're humiliating us. You already said that Ruth is leaving too. What did you say to her? I hung up. 2 minutes later, a text popped up from Ruth. We're leaving too. I held the screen up for Graham. He raised his eyebrows. Evelyn leaned in. I wasn't the only one. I said we weren't the only ones. And that's when it really hit me. Not just what we had done, but what it meant. We didn't stay quiet. We didn't swallow it. We left. We got up in public and made it known that this wasn't okay. Not anymore. 10 minutes later, Ruth and her husband showed up at the cafe with their kids. They looked like us, stunned, tired, slightly unmed. We pushed 2 tables together. No one said much. The waitress looked at us like we'd just been kicked out of a funeral, which in a way we had. I watched Evelyn hand her little cousin a napkin to wipe ketchup from his chin. Come present, the kind of big sister I never got to be. She's handling this better than I ever did. I muttered. Ruth raised an eyebrow better than I did too. My phone buzzed again. This time a message from my cousin Mara, who was still at the venue. It's a mess, then. Colin tried to run the slideshow. Froze the screen. People are leaving your mom. Just said it was all a misunderstanding into the mic during appetizers. I handed the phone to Ruth. She read it, snorted into her tea. We sat back still and quiet as the rest of the world swirled in the fallout of our rebellion. I keep waiting for someone to fix it, Ruth said quietly. I looked at her. We're the ones who always fix it, she nodded. And we didn't. This time I leaned back and stared out the window. A breeze ruffled the edge of the cafe awning. A couple walked past, holding hands, laughing at something private and irrelevant. We didn't ruin their big day. Ruin. It, I said almost to myself. They did. I got another update later that night. They still went through with the vow renewal. Some people stayed, mostly the ones who were too polite to leave or too invested in the open bar. The front rows were half empty when they kissed. There was clapping. Not joyful clapping, not emotional clapping. The kind of clapping you hear when someone finishes a slideshow about their vacation to Utah, awkward, obligatory, and very, very quiet. It had been 3 days, not long, but long enough for the silence to turn loud, long enough for the invoices to start hitting inboxes, long enough for everyone to pretend it hadn't happened until the money came due. I hadn't said anything. Not to my parents, not to Colin, not even to Ruth, who texted me just once to ask, "We're really not paying." I replied, "Correct." The vow renewal hadn't been prepaid. Just parts of it my parents had insisted on doing it right this time, which apparently meant a champagne wall, a roaming violinist, and a wedding planner who used the phrase statement florals without irony. We were each meant to cover a third, me, Ruth, and Colin. Now the math had shifted, and Colin was about to notice the voicemail came at 7:42 a.m. I hadn't even had coffee yet. "Moira, what the hell is this? You seriously think you're going to just skip out on the bill? We made a family agreement. You don't get to throw a tantrum and walk out of Mom and Dad's big day and then stick me with the damn invoices." He paused, then added, "Grow up." I played it twice just to let it sink in. Then I muted my phone and flipped a pancake. Evelyn wanted pancakes this morning. She was still staying with us. Her flight back was tomorrow. I asked my professor for an extension. She told me earlier. Told him I needed to be with family, he said. Sounds important. It was by mid-afternoon the panic showed up in person. My parents knocked on my door like they were selling Tupperware. My mom had something in her hand, maybe a folder, maybe a peace offering. My dad looked tense, but dressed for dignity. He always wore a blazer when he wanted to seem reasonable. Graham offered to get the door. I waved him off. Nope. Mine to handle, I opened it. "We thought we'd stop by for a quick chat," my mom said sweetly. "Just to clear the air." My dad nodded, especially with Evelyn. "We think she may have misunderstood." "Oh, I bet she did." They asked if they could speak to her alone. I called her down from upstairs. She appeared calm. Arms crossed. Expression. Unreadable. She looked at me. "Only if you want," I said. She nodded once. "Sure." I stepped into the kitchen but stayed close, not eavesdropping, just protective. They started soft. They always did. "We didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a very hectic day. We love you." "Of course we do." "Evelyn, you said." "I wasn't family," my mom gasped. "That's not what we said, Evelyn. You said we've decided you're not family anymore." I remember it exactly. My dad, what we meant was, it was close family. "Only Evelyn. I flew 5 hours. I bought a dress. And you didn't even let me in the building. My mom, sweetheart. That's not fair." "Evelyn, neither is what you did." There was a pause, a long one. Then she said, "And I'm not mad. I'm just done." That was it. Somehow I felt proud. I felt proud hearing her say those words. 5 minutes later, the door shut behind them. That night, Evelyn sat beside me on the couch and said, "I don't want to keep trying for people who don't try back." I didn't respond immediately, too stunned by her strength. "I used to fall for it too," I told her. She shook her head slightly. "You didn't." She rested her head on my shoulder. By the following morning, the smear campaign had already begun. Aunt Liz called Ruth. "Your mom says you ruined the anniversary over a misunderstanding." Uncle Greg sent me a message. "Just checking in. You good?" Which, coming from him, was the emotional equivalent of a heart-to-heart. Colin went around telling anyone who'd listen that he was stuck covering the entire cost of the event now, because, according to him, his sisters had lost their minds. Then Ruth sent me a text. "They changed the will. Colin's now the sole heir." I replied, "Let him have it. I'm done buying my way into a family that never wanted me." And I meant every word. No dramatic goodbye. No final blow-up. Just space. Silence. Boundaries that no longer shift. Let them tell their version of the story. We know the truth, and we're not looking back. It's been a few years now. We're still not in contact with my parents. Or with Colin. That hasn't changed. Evelyn graduated last spring. She moved back to the city. She's got a job she loves, friends who feel more like family, and a cozy little studio apartment that's somehow nicer than anything I had at her age. She never talks about her grandparents, and honestly, I don't think she even remembers them anymore. A few months ago, Colin showed up at our doorstep without warning. Graham answered. I stayed on the couch. Colin looked exhausted, more than just physically. He asked whether we were planning to resume helping Mom and Dad. Apparently the retirement villa, the travel club, the imported furniture, none of it came cheap. And ever since we stopped supporting them, he'd been covering all the bills himself. Willingly, of course. They'd promised him everything. The house, the savings, the legacy. Only there was nothing to inherit. Turns out they'd been overspending for decades. Their net worth? Negative. The house? Mortgaged to the max. The inheritance? Just a fantasy, dressed in velvet curtains and accessorized with a wine fridge. They'd lied to him too. He left in a rage after an argument I didn't witness, and don't intend to ask about. Last I heard, he cut them off as well. Ironic, really. They pushed Evelyn away for not being family, and ended up with no family at all. But me, I'm doing okay. I chose my daughter. I chose my self-respect, and I would choose them again. But you tell me, did I go too far, or just far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, Don't forget to subscribe and tap that bell.